All right, John.
Yeah, Shane, I know obviously in the offseason things happen, whatever, but how much can momentum carry over for an offense if you guys have had some good games down the stretch here, if you can put one more together and kind of go into the offseason feeling good about what you've done to finish the year?
Yeah, I think it's definitely been a goal of ours towards the end of the season here to make sure, even though our win-loss record isn't where we wanted it to be at this point, that we keep continuing to improve, showing improvement across the board fundamentally, finishing games, playing consistent through 4 quarters, and we've had some flashes. We had a flash of it this past game, and really looking forward to carry that into this week and then carry that into the offseason with looking forward to things to build from.
Jen?
I know that not everything has gone the way you expected this year, but what are you most proud of that the offense has accomplished or shown?
Yeah, I think just continuing to show its explosive ability. Got a lot of different players that have that ability to make just a normal play extraordinary. DK had and Russell connecting against the zero blitz this past week. Flashes in between there where you see a lot of the hard work. I know like Dave Canales puts in a lot of hard work throughout the week, looking at some of those different blitzes we may get and seeing those things come to life on the football field when those players are able to execute at such a high level like they were able to on that particular play. Those are the moments that stand out throughout the season, and like I said, looking to find more and more of those as we continue to grow and build as an offense.
Greg?
Sir, what have you learned most about DK Metcalf now a season with them, and what do you think he's learned most about you in the new offense?
Yeah, I think most I've learned with him, he has that ability to move around and play a bunch of different positions. Knowing going into this year, some of the success he's had in the past was going to garner some more attention for him down in and down out, and that's happened. And then, learn that he, at his core, DK wants to win, right? That's what he's about. That's what he's built around. He's going to work hard to continue to try to achieve those goals. And so he's done a really good job of having times where he's had to be a little bit patient, knowing that we want to get him the ball. He wants the ball, but the priority is to win, and we got to keep working to figure out ways to target him and get him involved as much as we can, because like we saw this past week, when he touches the ball, good things happen.
Tim?
Shane, I think we're all asking you reflection questions on the season today.
Yeah.
Going into it, what's this year been like working with Pete? You obviously saw from afar what it was like when you were in LA, but working hand in hand with him, what has this year been like for you?
I think it's been, and you take away the wins and losses part, which is, at the end of the day, the number one factor in an NFL football season. The great part about being around Coach Carroll is his unrelenting approach, right? He's the same every day. He's built a great culture around this organization. So when we've had some of the downs throughout this season, you've come back in on those Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and led into practices that have been still at an elite level, where guys are excited to be here, excited to get going, excited to, hey, move on from the past game and on to the next week. And it's really that culture that he's built throughout the course of his tenure here that's really reflective on when things aren't going the right way. The place is built the right way for long-term success, where guys can rally around each other and really be on for the next challenge.
Mike?
Hey, Shane, why was the offense why was it just flashes for the offense this year? And where you had it in the Indy game, Houston game, Detroit. Why was it only just flashes like that?
Yeah, I think a lot of different inconsistencies that showed up throughout the year, and I think something that I can do a better job of getting it all coached and taught up, and getting us maybe some more of the right play calls and the right scenarios, and just all of us coming together and being a little bit better, being a little bit more comfortable in it to lead to that end of game success and lead to some more third down success, some more success finishing at the end of games, all stuff that we're looking to improve on and look to get better at.
And DK mentioned to us that the run game, having that going the last month or so has gotten teams out of those too high shells.
Mm-hmm.
How much of that, not being able to run teams out of those too high looks was part of why the offense wasn't consistent in the way you wanted it to be this year?
I don't know if that was the only reason. Like I said, I think each game we dealt with so many different things each game, and each game it wasn't always the same issue that had come up with the that had come up the week before, and I think that's where we dealt with some of the highs and lows that we had throughout the season. So anytime that we can run the ball, anytime that we can marry the run and the pass, that's always going to be a goal of our offense, where we want to be in that attacking mode. And to be in that attacking mode, when you're running the ball well, you're staying efficient, you're staying ahead of the chains and out of the third and longs, it's going to help you as a whole. And Rashad Penny, the offensive line with Coach Solari leading the way, has done such an excellent job over the last several weeks that it's really enabled our offense to operate at a higher level.
Thanks.
Bob?
Yeah, Michael Sean asked exactly what I was going to ask, but I'll pivot to asking just about the offensive line. You've obviously had to make some, kind of adjust on the fly the last few weeks. Phil Haynes last week. How have you sort of seen that come together, and some of these young guys playing like Phil and Jake Curhan?
Yeah, I think, the impressive part throughout the year is how the young guys have been able to step in and have that seamless approach where they've been able to play at a high level. And like I talked about it with Jake earlier on, a couple weeks back when he first started playing more and more, where he was really out of the rookie mode and into playing as a vet would at that point in the season. And then I think Phil Haynes did an excellent job. He's played plenty of ball, but as a guy that's been, kind of on the back burner, so to speak, throughout the season, being a practice squad guy, being on being out on the field working hard, but not being out on game day, he was able to step right in and really play at a high level. He showed a lot of things, and a couple of the big runs that happened throughout the game were all the guys working hard, but especially Phil being great, on some of the second level blocks and just being able to seamlessly go in there and play. And, as an offensive line, those guys have done a good job throughout the course of the season of mixing and matching. And, we've had different injury issues or different things along the way, right? In this year where people are in and out of the lineup for various reasons. And so those guys have played multiple positions, some of the backup guys, some of the depth players. And so when they've had a chance to go in, it might not be their natural position, or it might be something a little bit different than they practiced the week before. But at some point throughout the course of the season, going back to training camp, they've really played almost every position along the line. So it's enabled us to go in and play with different bodies throughout the course of the season.
Corbin?
Hey, Shane, kind of building off that question, it looks like, and Pete mentioned this yesterday, there have been some schematic changes with the run game since Rashad came in. It looks like you guys have had a lot of success running plays with pulling guards and tackles in recent weeks. Do you feel like you have a little better comfort level now with the offensive line group that you have, or does that have more to do with the running back in particular?
Yeah, I think, a little bit of mixture of everything, and also, I think when we're able to play efficiently in the run game and get more plays off, get more plays called, allows us to get a little bit more variety going along the way, where we're still based on our core concepts, but then being able to mix and match some different schemes up along the way. And we do have the versatility up front. The guards, like you just mentioned, the guards have done an excellent job, both Gabe and D-Lou, and then Phil stepping in as pullers when we get into some of our gap and trap schemes. So just having that variety, and really just as an offense as a whole, where we do have a little bit of variety throughout the course of every game, is really the goal. And again, that comes back to playing that good, efficient football, staying ahead of the chains and getting more plays off, eliminating those 3 and outs so we have more chances.
Brady?
And Shane, DK told us about the difference in how defenses have been playing you guys in terms of two high safeties and whatnot. Now that Rashad has gotten going, how noticeable has that been to you, just the way that defenses are defending you differently?
Yeah, I think we've had a good chance to get some explosive plays throughout the course of the year, and so when that happens, then you end up getting some of these defenses that are playing more of the umbrella style, where they're trying to keep everything in front of them. And we were able to, against Detroit a couple times when they're in a cover 2 look, able to hit some runs that get through that second level of the defense and up on the safeties, and that stuff starts to happen, and then it's going to open up the outside. So it's all about playing that complementary football within the run game and the pass game, and throughout the course of the year, when DK's out there, he's big and fast and strong on the outside, so he's going to draw a lot of attention. People are going to try to play over the top of him, and when there have been those times where he has been singled, he's done a great job of winning those one-on-one matchups.
And then what's the communication been like between you and Pete, whether it's during the week and game planning or during a game, in terms of like how he wants games called?
In terms of, he's, we're always talking about what the big picture is throughout the course of a game, what the score of the game is, the time on the clock. Like we got into a 4-minute situation a little bit earlier this past week. So those are things that we're in constant communication with. And outside of that, it's really running our offense, running our system, and he's always fully on board.
Greg?
Shane, what value does Dwayne Brown have in your offense? Not just Sunday, but Monday through Saturday too.
Yeah, I think his leadership ability, you see Dwayne, he's a guy that's always in there, always working hard. He's a guy that's got that veteran leadership ability just because of how many good years he's been able to put together and still play at a high level. And, I say it about all these guys, the young players that are around these veterans that have played in the NFL for a long time. It's no surprise the guys that start playing 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 years, there's always a common theme with how hard those guys work. And so Dwayne is a great leader by example, in the weight room, around the building, knowing what his assignments are. So he's just that good presence, and then he goes out and puts it on tape on the field still at a high level at this point in his career. So just a great overall presence to have around both on and off the field for those guys.
All right, last one, Michael Sean.
Hey, staying on Dwayne, you had Andrew Whitworth when he was Dwayne's age and saw him play at a high level even now. Based on what you've seen from Dwayne, do you think he could be one of those guys who kind of bucks the trend of left tackles and plays well into his late 30s?
Yeah, there's the similarities with those guys, kind of going back to that work ethic, with Whitworth and with Dwayne, both of those guys just work so hard at it off the field, knowing that they've, hit that transitional phase of their careers where they're getting into that, into the teens with their years accrued, and so they've got to operate a little bit differently. They got to put it all on the line for their bodies and alter the way they work off the field. And so you see both guys with that ability to do that and not let anything taper off. Rather, they're working harder probably than they did at their younger stages of their career to stay in shape, to stay on it, and then keep play at a high level.
Thanks.
All right, thanks, Coach.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.